Hello and welcome. In this video we will talk about our second skill, which is making comparisons. When you are writing a report in Writing Task 1, IELTS Academic, you are supposed to make comparisons, relevant and appropriate comparisons. So this skill is super important. And we're going to use this graph to talk about this skill. Now, this is a multiple graph because it has two visuals. The first visual is a bar chart, and the second is a table. We're going to discuss this report in detail, and as you can see, the report has 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph is paraphrase and overview. We will talk about it in detail later. There are 2 body paragraphs in this report, and the logic behind having these 2 paragraphs is very straightforward. So the first body paragraph is about the first visual, about the bar chart, and the second body paragraph is about the table. All right, now let's focus on the first paragraph, the introduction. So now you can see the overview. It is in blue. Overview is a very important element. It's necessary. And when you're writing an overview for a multiple graph like this, one main feature for each visual is enough. So we're going to choose one key feature about the first graph and one key feature about the second graph. Also, it's always a good idea to pay attention to minimums and maximums. And what do I mean by minimums and maximums? Let's have a look at our bar graph. This bar graph shows worldwide or global oilseed production, and there are several types of seeds. We can see that soybeans is the highest. Yeah, it is obviously the maximum. We also can see a minimum here, which is copra. Over here, it's only 5.83. So this is the minimum, and this is the maximum. And if we look at the table, we also can see maximums, the first, and minimum, the last. So these are going to be key features for our overview. Let's have a look at the overview together. Overall, soybeans were the major type of oilseed in the world. However, the world's leading vegetable oil was palm oil. So there are 2 sentences in the overview. As you can see, they are connected with the linking word, however, and in general, it's a very good idea to use all kinds of linking devices, words, phrases. We'll talk about them later. To write the introductory phrase, which is a paraphrase of the description that we have here, I have used the linking word while. The meaning of the word while here is and. It is very similar to and it's a very good option, a very good linking word to connect 2 parts in one sentence. In fact, the word while has 2 meanings. The first meaning is at the same time, so it doesn't show contrast in this case, and this is exactly the meaning of while here in this example. And the second meaning of while is whereas or although, and in this case, while shows contrast. I have also used the word details instead of the word shall. And details is a verb, as you can see. The meaning is very clear. It means to show detailed information about something. So this is one of many options to use in your introductory phrase. I have paraphrased this phrase over here in the 2021-2022 crop year like this, as of 2021-2022. So this is a very nice option to paraphrase years. And we are continuing with our first body paragraph. So first of all, I would like to draw your attention to the verb that I have used here, amounted to. As I've said, it is a verb, and it is very useful word that you can use to mention the number. So the production of soybeans amounted to roughly 364 million metric tons. There is a preposition here, amounted to. So the meaning is the same as was. Yeah, the production was, or the production stood at. They are all synonyms, and I have used all of them in this paragraph. Amounted to, stood at, and was. And as you understand yourself, if you use a variety of synonyms, it is very good for your lexical resource. This bar graph is about production. So I would like to talk to you about different synonyms of the word production. So production itself is a noun. Of course, you can use it. You can also use produce as a verb. For example, was produced in passive voice. As well as that, you can use produced as an adjective, like most produced type. Here, the production is measured in metric tons. This information is given here, metric tons. So when we talk about the numbers, these numbers, when we give the numbers that describe production, we can also use the words volume, like production volume, or amount, production amount. A synonym of the word production is a word supply. Supply can be used as a noun, and it can be used as a verb, was supplied. And of course, when we mention numbers, we can always use the word figure. It is a very useful word in general for writing task 1 academic. So in this paragraph, I have highlighted all of the synonyms that I have used. Again, if you use synonyms, it's very good for the score. Words of approximation. We have already talked about them in our previous lesson, and they're just so handy and so useful that I can't help mentioning them again. So please use them. They can help to show lexical variety because there are several synonyms of them. And sometimes the use of words of approximation can help you in situations when your visual doesn't have a lot of information. So you need to find extra words to be able to write 150 words minimum. In these situations, these words of approximation can also be very useful. In this paragraph, I have highlighted these words, and as we can see, I have used roughly, nearly, some, approximately, so overall 4 synonyms. Again, as I'm showing a variety and flexibility of my language, this is very good for the lexical resource. And now we are moving on to the final paragraph of this report. And this paragraph is about the table. So the table is about consumption of vegetable oils. Obviously, we will need to use the word consumption, but also it would be very good to use synonyms of the word consumption. So what can we use? Consumption is a noun. We can also use consume as a verb, for example, as was consumed. In some situations, we can also use words eat or was eaten when we're talking about food, something that is actually eaten. In this case, we're talking about vegetable oils, and of course they can be eaten, but also they can be added in creams, cosmetics, they can be used as a, fuel. So they are not necessarily eaten. That's why I'm not going to use this word in the report. Another synonym that can be used is demand. Demand is a noun. And in some situations, when you don't want to repeat yourself, you can use the word that. Like here, the demand of palm kernel oil totaled this much million MT, while that of the remaining vegetable oils did not exceed, continue. So that corresponds to the word demand. And this is one of the ways for you to not repeat words. Another useful word that you can use in your reports is total. And total is used as a verb. It is used here in its past form, totaled. Both options of spelling are possible with one L or double L. It's really up to you. So totaled has the same meaning as amounted to, or was, or stood at. It is very handy when you are naming the figure, when you are mentioning the number. And there is no preposition here. The demand of palm kernel oil totaled 8.64 million MT. There is no preposition here. I am drawing your attention to this fact because we do use a preposition here with amounted to. We also use a preposition with stood. We say stood at. So be careful with the prepositions. The next word in focus is exceed. Let's have a look at the sentence where I have used it. The demand of palm kernel oil totaled 8.64 million MT. Let's have a look at this data in the table. So this is our palm kernel oil. The second part of the sentence is about remaining vegetable oils, right? While that of the remaining vegetable oils did not exceed. So the remaining vegetable oils are these three types of oils: peanut oil, cottonseed oil, and coconut oil. And by using the word exceed, I am kind of grouping these three oils, and I'm saying that the consumption was not greater than 6.5, than the highest figure here. So this is yet another nice way to talk about numbers or figures if you want to show that you know many synonyms. Also in this sentence, I have used this very useful verb, which is range between. So I said the demand of the remaining vegetable oils ranged between roughly 6.5 and 3.5. So again, ranged between, I'm talking about these three remaining types of oils. And I'm saying that they ranged between roughly 6.5 and 3.5. As you can see, this is a very good way to group information. I'm not mentioning every single figure. I'm kind of grouping this information using these words: did not exceed and ranged between. Alternatively, you can use the verb vary. Vary between roughly 6.5 and 3.5 million. It's also a verb. So again, when you're writing a report, you will often have to talk about numbers, figures. You will have to, to describe amounts or numbers or percentages, and to do so you have quite many synonyms. And here I have highlighted all of them that I have used in this report. So once again, you can use verbs amounted to, the production amounted to. You can use the verb stood at, the production volume stood at. Also, you can use the word was, the production volume was. You can go with the verb totaled, the demand of palm kernel oil totaled. To add more variety, you can use the word did not exceed. You can also use the word range between. As well as that, I have used these phrases here: were supplied and was consumed. This is yet another way to talk about numbers. Basically, my aim is to show you a variety of options so that you have lots of different ways to paraphrase and to express your ideas. Okay, so in this lesson we are focusing on the skill of making comparisons, and there are different ways to compare or contrast things, and in this lesson we're talking about 3 ways. So first of all, we are talking about linking words and phrases. Next, we will talk about grammar structures, and also we will talk a little about words that show comparison. And we're going to start with linking words and phrases. Now you can see all the linking words that I have used in this report: while, however, compared to, whereas, although, while. Next, we will discuss a few grammar structures that can be used. Now you can see these grammar structures in green. We will talk about them. And finally, a variety of words that show comparison. You can see them now in orange. Okay, so first, let's talk about linking words and phrases that can be used when we talk about similarity. Sometimes we are describing similar trends or similar amounts, similar numbers, and for these situations you can use words like likewise, have a look at the example, or similarly, also have a look at the example. More commonly, we will have to use linking words and phrases that show contrast when we are talking about different trends and contrasting phenomena. And we have quite a few options to do this. However, on the other hand, in contrast, whilst or while, whereas, although. There are examples here. Please have a look at them. I would like to say a few words about commas, these things, when you use words however and on the other hand. So if you're using however in one sentence, this is the punctuation that you have used. You will have to use a semicolon and a comma after however. Another option is to split sentences, like here. In this case, you will start a new sentence with however, but still you will have to use a comma after it. And exactly the same situation happens with on the other hand. Let's talk for a minute about whilst, while, and whereas. So these words are always used in a complex sentence. Complex sentence is a sentence which has minimum 2 parts. So here in green is the right use of these words. whilst the price of gold surged in September, comma, the price of silver declined. The number of marriages declined during that period, comma, whereas the number of divorces rocketed. So this is the correct use. In contrast, here in red is incorrect use. So when you split your sentence like this is incorrect. Again, when you split your sentence like this, it is incorrect. I sometimes see it in my students' reports, and I can say that this is quite a common issue, so be careful here. Although is a very, very good option to show contrast. Again, it is always used in a complex sentence, which is a sentence that consists of minimum 2 parts. Now at the screen you can see 4 examples, and the first example is how you correctly use although. So although and comma over here. And let's have a look at incorrect use so that you do not make these mistakes in your reports. Now, the first issue is putting the word but. You do not need but if you already have although. Forget about but, no but. Another issue is doing this. So when a complex sentence is split, this is incorrect. You shouldn't split a sentence like this. It should be all one sentence, like this one. And finally, a very common mistake that I see is here, putting this comma after although. This is wrong. There shouldn't be any comma after although. The comma, again, goes here in the middle of the sentence. It splits 2 parts of the sentence. Okay, I hope you will not make these mistakes. And this is how I have used the word although in this report. It is the first sentence of the 3rd paragraph. And this word, although, which is a linking word, it connects 2 visuals. It also connects 2 paragraphs. So your report becomes more connected and more coherent, which is very good, obviously. And secondly, as although is always used in a complex sentence, we have discussed it. The use of although is also good for grammatical range and accuracy, which is another assessment criterion. So although is a really good option, and if it is appropriate to use it, please use it. Next, we're going to talk about several grammar structures that we can use to make comparisons. When we compare something, we will have to use degrees of comparison. High, higher, the highest. Dangerous, more dangerous, the most dangerous. Or large, larger, the largest. So we will have to use degrees of comparison because we are comparing something. I would like to draw your attention to these 2 words over here. Lots of mistakes here. So we have the word few and the word little. The meaning is the same. It means not many. But few is used for countable nouns, like few people, few cars, few questions, whereas little is for uncountable nouns, like little electricity, little time, little hope. In everyday conversations, these words are mixed up. They're used interchangeably and it's not a big deal. However, at a formal exam, and IELTS is a formal exam, it is better to stick to the rule. We can also use words like far, considerably, much, significantly, to talk about big difference. And to talk about little difference, we can use words slightly, marginally, inconsiderably. Another grammar structure that can be very useful for reports is using by far and superlative. Superlative is words like the best, the biggest, the highest, the largest. Let's have a look at this example. Russia is by far the largest country in the world. So if you remember the map, Russia is huge. It's like really the biggest country in the world, and it is much bigger than other countries. So for situations like this, when we're talking about a big, noticeable difference, we can put this little phrase, by far the largest, by far the highest, by far the most popular. Another example is here. The literacy level in South Africa is by far the highest among all African countries. So it means that in South Africa, the literacy level is not only the highest, but it is much, much higher. So it's by far the highest. There is a big difference. This is how I have used by far in the report. So which was by far the highest figure compared to the other seed types. And next we're going to talk about this grammar structure. So as, for example, as good as large as high as many as. And we use this structure when we talk about equal figures. For example, let's say that the fuel consumption in USA was 200 tons, and in Canada it was 200 tons too. So it's the same figure. In this case, we can say that the fuel consumption in the US was as high as in Canada, meaning that the consumption was the same. As high as means similarly high. If figures are not equal, if figures are different, we just add not. Not as bad as, not as large as. For example, if the use of coal in Germany is 200 tons and in Albania it is 100 tons, well, obviously it is not the same figures, right? So we can say the use of coal in Germany is not as high as in Albania. Not as high as in Albania. Finally, we can show the exact difference in numbers. And for that, we can use words like twice, or 3 times, or half, as many as. And we're going to talk about the structure in more detail. So, let's imagine that I have 2 friends and you have 4 friends. So in this case, we can say that you have twice as many friends as me. Please do not make a mistake here. Do not say twice as more friends as me. We're using the positive degree. Many, much, high, large, important, difficult. Another example is you have 20 bucks and I have 60 bucks. So in this case, I have 3 times as much money as you. We can say as you do or simply as you. Now let's talk about examples that can actually be used in IELTS. So potato consumption in Germany is 200 kg, whereas in Albania it is 390 kg. So we can see that the difference is almost 2 times. Almost. Not exactly, but almost. So in this case, we can say that potato consumption in Germany is roughly half as high as in Albania. Another example is China versus Norway. So China spends $1 million on luxury brands, while Norway spends less. It's only $500,000. So in this case, we can say that China spends twice as much as Norway on luxury brands. Alternatively, we can say China's expenditure on clothes is twice as high as in Norway. Expenditure is spending, very synonyms. Also, we can say China's expenditure on clothes is twice as high as that in Norway. So that is the same as expenditure. But of course, I do not want to repeat the same word. That's why instead of saying expenditure again, I just replace it with that. You can also use this in your reports. Also, I can start my sentence with Norway. And in this case, I will say Norway spends 500,000 on luxury brands, which is half as much as China. This is also a very good way to present information. And this is how I have used these structures in the report. So the production of soybeans amounted to roughly 364 million metric tons, which was nearly 5 times as much as the volume of the next most produced seed, rapeseed. This is a very useful and not the most easiest, actually, structure to use if you want to make comparisons. Next, you can also show comparison with words like this. Leading, top, major, main. These are adjectives. You can go with the noun majority. You can go with dominate, which is a verb, or dominant, which is an adjective. And words like significantly, considerably, slightly, gradually. I have also used a few words like this, and you can see them in orange. So, compares. When I use this word, compares, it already shows the idea of comparison. This is very obvious. The major. The major means the main, the leading. It also means like the first, which is, again, a comparison of a sort. The world's leading, the same idea. Significantly. Significantly shows that the difference was very big. And again, this is a way to compare things. I have also used the verb dominate. Dominate means be the leader, be the first in the ranking. So all of these words, again, help to show the variety of your language, the flexibility of your language, which will directly and beneficially influence the score for your report. And this is it for this lesson. In our next episode, we will talk about graphs with future, and I'll see you there.